So the Gauteng High Court has taken decisive action against the distribution of horrific content online, ordering Meta to permanently shut down several anonymous Instagram accounts and WhatsApp channels. These platforms have been used to distribute explicit child pornography, specifically depicting South African school children. The digital law company acted swiftly, turning to the court on an urgent and extremely urgent basis, and their application was unopposed. This groundbreaking ruling highlights the growing battle against online child exploitation. Joining us now this morning to shed more light on this significant development and the ongoing fight to protect our children online is the founder of the digital law company, Emma Sadlier. Emma, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. Your response to the order that you have that you had gotten, but also the deadline that was set for Meta to shut down these accounts. Do you know whether they've met that?
Well, firstly, to answer how I felt after receiving the order late on Monday night was sheer delight. To be honest with you, we've had an ongoing fight over the last decade with these international social media companies, primarily around responsibility for the content that they're hosting. So what's been very interesting in this case was firstly that the court was prepared to grant the order. We know that Meta has employees in South Africa. We know that they have customers in South Africa. We know they make money in South Africa. What they've done historically is said, we don't have responsibility in South Africa because we don't have jurisdiction there. We're not based there. If you want to sue us, if you want to get any information out of us, follow us to California, which is prohibitively expensive and complicated. So what happened was that I was inboxed over the weekend by youngsters who had been shamed on these accounts, by people whose nudes or videos had been leaked by these accounts. And sometimes where people, whoever's behind these anonymous accounts has posted the most horrific, degrading, defamatory content about children. Now, what's interesting is that it's not just WhatsApp channels showing pictures or showing videos. They're saying this is this girl at this school, in this class, in this grade, and this is her social media handle, and then sharing this content. Now, WhatsApp channels are so terrifying. You can have hundreds of thousands of people on a WhatsApp channel. So whereas a WhatsApp group is limited to 1,024 people, a WhatsApp channel has uncountable followers. There's no identifying information. You have no idea who created the account, who the admin of the account is, who the other participants on the account are. All you can see is the name, when it was created, and how many followers there are. So I think it's an indefensible platform, to be honest with you, if you're not going to be responding to reports, because these platforms we know have been sharing the most horrific content. To give credit, Meta has complied to a large extent in terms of removing the Instagram accounts that have been causing the trouble and the WhatsApp channels, but we still haven't been given any identifying information, and so we now need to decide whether we go back to court to try and force them to hand over that identifying information. Aldrin, I just don't believe that it's going to stop until we find out who's behind it. Yeah. Because they're just popping up. It's like playing whack-a-mole, right? We delete that account and they pop up here.
Yeah, and that's the issue. Why is it so, or why has it been so difficult for Meta to hand over such information? That sure, you and I may not know who has created the account, but they have the background information around from which cell phone even this account would have been created, or which device this account would have been created.
They absolutely. We know that they keep basic subscriber records, which includes email addresses, telephone numbers, IP addresses, login, logout information, timestamps. And because of the number of accounts created, presumably they've got quite a lot of information. So we're not saying you need to tell us exactly who this person is. We're just saying hand over any records that you hold on this person so that we can take the steps to go and identify them and take legal action. We know of kids who have unfortunately either completed suicide or attempted suicide in the last couple of days as a result of content shared on these platforms. It is unacceptable to have these platforms if they're not going to be responding to complaints where people report the platforms on the basis that there's a violation of the community standards. You know, even Telegram, which has such a bad reputation, the content, these kids tried to take it to Telegram on the basis that, you know, there was less reporting and you could be more robust in the content that you're sharing on Telegram. Telegram shut it down immediately. So if Telegram can do it, why can't WhatsApp? Why can't Meta? So those are some of the issues that we're dealing with. I would love to make law on Facebook be responsible in South Africa. By Facebook, I mean Meta. And we will call on all government sectors, portfolio committees, ministers to call on Meta to say to them, how are you complying and how is it okay that these channels can exist? And we alert them to the fact that these channels existed on Friday and Saturday, and nothing was done until we brought this court application. So I'm very privileged. I have access to brilliant lawyers who I can call on to assist, but the average teenage child doesn't have that kind of access. And that's why it's so important that we make law on this so that they are protected in the future.
Yep. Is it known where this content that is being shared is coming from? And I know that this is a bit of a difficult one around the issue around whether a child can really consent, and the legislation says a child can't consent. But do we know whether the children would have voluntarily handed over such information and such footage?
So absolutely everything concerning sexual acts of a child under the age of 18 constitutes child pornography in South African law. So even if, and it sounds terrible, but even if consensual. So what we're dealing with is actually a situation where a child can be old enough to consent to sexual acts, but any filming of that act or photographing of that act constitutes the creation of child pornography. Some of the content that was shared on these platforms, and I have to tell you, I've been living and breathing these channels for days. It's been, I'm going to have a proper reset after this because it has been absolutely awful. Some of the content clearly has been taken by a child in a situation where they are consensually sending it to somebody, presumably somebody that they're in a relationship with, and then that content has been further circulated. We do have law in South Africa that says that if you share a private sexual photo or video of somebody without their prior consent, now we're dealing with adults because obviously everything to do with under 18 is child pornography, then it's a 300,000 Rand fine and 4 years in prison. We have that law. We can only lay criminal charges against individuals if we know who they are. There's been a lot of victim blaming on the platforms. You know, well, what did they expect was going to happen if they took this content? But to go back to your question, not all of the content was consensually created. There is content that has been circulated where somebody has gone over the top of the toilet cubicle at schools and shown teenage children involved in sexual acts. We've seen videos taken from sort of CCTV type footage and being leaked. So it's the scale of it. When I say I've seen over 1,000 posts in the last couple of days, including photographs, videos, it's not an exaggeration. Up until the court papers were launched on Monday, we knew of 30 different Instagram accounts. While those get deleted, new ones are created. So you know, every hour we're sharing it with the legal team the new accounts that have been created. Until we can get the identifying information, until we can find out who's behind this chaos, I don't believe it's going to stop. So I really urge everybody to understand how urgent and important this is. And more than that, to say to parents, do not think of WhatsApp as safer. You know, we've got this idea that, oh, I can give my child a phone in primary school so that they can WhatsApp me to tell me what time school finishes, or they can stay in touch with their friends, or they're being left out of the class WhatsApp group, and the social alienation that comes with that. What we're finding with the WhatsApp channels is that it makes WhatsApp a worse platform than any of the others because of the anonymity and because of the limitless size of these WhatsApp channels. So to be honest, and I never thought these words would come out of my mouth, I'd prefer my child was on TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat than on one of these WhatsApp channels. Yeah,
it is a scary thought. The other thing for me that I fear in a conversation that we had with the team in the morning was considering South Africa's vulnerability, especially of the poor, our high inequality rate, that the fear of children taking pictures and visuals of themselves in a sexually explicit way with the purpose of actually being paid for that footage.
And there are a lot of those allegations that have come out on the group. This person sells her genitals, I'm sorry to use this language, but this is literally what's on the group, to these children at this school, and then naming the child. This child in this grade, or this grade, this person in this grade sleeps with taxi drivers for free transport. You know, we are dealing with, and we're not, these groups, they're not targeting rich kids in the suburbs. You know, it's vulnerable communities who have mostly been targeted by these accounts so far. The chaos that has unfolded is enormous. You know, I've had people DMing me saying my cousin committed suicide. My sister is in a coma in hospital because she was leaked on one of these platforms, or she was labeled as having an STI or having a huge body count, which is the term that the kids use for how many people somebody slept with. The sort of continuing allegations of this person's body count is greater than their age. You know, but for me, what's been the most frightening thing, Aldrin, is how fearless these children are about the laws, about the harm that they're causing. You know, yesterday even the guy was boasting, oh, well, what did they expect when he heard about suicides? Well, what did they expect was going to happen if they shared their nudes? You know, if you share your nudes, and I remember having this fight with somebody years ago where they said, oh, if you send somebody a nude, it's like leaving your wallet in a public garden or I mean, a public area, and then getting upset when it gets stolen. It's absolutely not like that. It's like leaving your wallet on your boyfriend's bedside table and then that wallet being stolen. We should expect better from people. The victim blaming, and to take it a bit further, the nature of these sexual acts in these videos is, you can tell these children are growing up with pornography as their sex education. It's been a very, very harrowing place to be the last few days.
Yeah. The Department of Communications has now also issued a statement welcoming this judgment that has been handed down. The Deputy Minister going on to say that parents and guardians are encouraged to regularly monitor the children's online activities and educate them about harmful and prohibited content that could lead to their arrest. Could lead to their arrest, as well as the long-term psychological effects of such content on victims. And I wonder whether this is enough, or if there's something else that we should be seeing from a legislative point of view. Somebody just now on X tweeted that, why don't we follow suit with what Australia has done, for instance, where children below the ages of 16 are not allowed to be on social media?
Yeah, well, I can tell you that the day that happened, which was in November last year in Australia, the champagne was put straight into the deep freeze to be drunk that night, because it was an absolutely wonderful step that the Australians took, and we're seeing some other countries following suit. You know, I'm thrilled to hear about the Deputy Minister of Communications issuing a statement along those lines, but it's not enough. You know, and as much as I was celebrating on Monday night when we got the court order, when I woke up on Tuesday morning, it felt pretty hollow, and I actually might get quite emotional here, but you know, we work so hard on these things, and the messages that I woke up to on Tuesday morning, not that I had much sleep, it was only about an hour and a half sleep, but where children were saying that they'd actually knew of suicides as a result of this content, and that Meta still hasn't handed over the identifying information. Yes, they eventually last night did delete some of these WhatsApp channels. It just felt a bit like every time I get a congratulations message on the order in my inbox, I'm just like, yeah, well, you can congratulate us when actually we can put a proper end to this. And hopefully we manage to get there in time to save some children. But by the time we approached the court on Monday night, it was mostly Johannesburg. We've seen these accounts, and I'm not going to use the keyword used in a lot of in all of the accounts, because I don't want people going looking for it and to find it. But until we can find out who's behind the original content, and we can actually make an example and send to prison whoever has created all of this stuff, because bear in mind, children have full criminal capacity from 14 years old. It's a pretty hollow victory so far. So Meta needs to comply properly with the court order.
Yeah, and just finally, looking at what should be happening now going forward, what's your advice to parents? What should I be doing as a parent? How do I even know if my child is sending or sharing such information, or if somebody is actually sending them this type of information or content? This morning we're running a poll and we're asking our viewers, how should the spread of this explicit child content be curbed on social media? And the majority of the people are saying use technology to detect and block such content. Does such technology exist currently?
Well, it must do, because when they tried to take this to Telegram, it was shut down immediately. We know that there are reporting technologies. I myself have personally reported some of these WhatsApp channels up to 50, 60, 70 times. We even got on Instagram when I reported one account which was sharing graphic child pornography. Oh, this doesn't violate our community standards, which is nonsense. We know with AI, I mean, just in the last couple of days, FaceTime has announced that if they detect that somebody starts taking off their clothing during a FaceTime call, the FaceTime call will be shut. We know that the technology is available. So, but we're not even asking Meta to do that. We're not asking them to use, I mean, it would be great if they did use technology to screen all the content being posted and being shared. What we're asking for is just hand over the information that you know about these accounts. Hand over the email address and cell phone number and IP address of the person who created each of those 30 Instagram accounts. There've been subsequently about another 30, and the 7 WhatsApp channels, which accumulatively reach well over 100,000 children. Just tell us, we're happy to do the legwork. We're happy to go and get the subpoenas and find out, using with all the cell phone companies and everything. We'll find out who it is. Just give us that identifying information, because you, Meta, are the keeper of the keys. There is nobody else who has that information, and the only way we're going to get these accounts to stop is if you hand over the identifying information that you hold.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Emma, and I hope that you really win with this campaign and government is able to respond as well.